Alright, what up, wavers? Okay, so first things first, as far as tunnels go, you're going to need an OBJ object. You can't upload tilt brush stuff, unfortunately, that's FBX, but so I'm here just gonna show you a couple quick and dirty things, see what you can pull off. Now, the first thing to note is that if you're in Blender making your object, then you hit 5 for orthographic view and then hit 1 for front. This is the side that's going to be spawning, well, not spawning, but coming toward you in the tunnel. So if you make an object, you don't like it, um, try rotating it 90 degrees or 45 or what have you. Just see what it does. If you can get a ton of different tunnels out of just one object. Now, switching over to here, I'll give you a couple of examples and give you how to on the faders. So I got a couple different objects in here. This is the one we were just looking at. Hit tunnel. And boom. Okay. So let's just zero everything out real quick so I can show you what's going on here. Alright, so now you can see that blue. Now, you'll notice that the sides are a little rotated around, but really what matters is what's coming at you in the first place. Okay, so as far as the faders go, number of sides, you can have 1 to 10. And one thing to note about number of sides and OBJ objects in general is, from what I can tell, it spawns the same number of objects no matter what. So if we go, if you look at the side there, see how much overlap and glitchiness is going on? We crank it up, they're further apart. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is the simpler the object, the more that they will spawn. You won't have breaks that show up in the middle of your tunnel. If that happens, just pop it down a couple and you should be fine. Or, just try something else. It all depends on what you're going for. So don't let me stop your experimentation and tell you that there's anything right or wrong. If it looks cool, good. If it doesn't, hey, try again. Now, asset scale. Pretty obvious. Up goes big, down goes small. Now, scale animation can be a little bit funky. What actually happens with this is the scale animation does not really control how much, but how fast, and that is a trend amongst the faders. So if you want, something a little smoother, you're going to want more objects and a slow, as you can see right there, how there's a nice gradual kind of pattern going on. You can see a little better too if you put tunnel spin on. But scale animation works with some objects, some it doesn't. It's all experimentation. Now, when you're VJing, it can get a little glitchy, so careful with that. So let me crank this up so we can see something here. Rotation. Again, rotation controls the speed of the rotation, not the amount. We crank it up a little bit, you'll see it's barely moving. But if you look down the line there, that green will eventually get up to us. Now, how the rotation functions is it will rotate once on the y-axis, then once on the x-axis. If, we look at it as z going up and down. So if we crank it all the way up, you'll see what I'm talking about here. See, there's rotation 1, and then it'll spin, and then rotation 2. So keep that in mind, that, never mind. I should have wrote a script for this. Anyway, radius is how big the radius is. Now, one thing to note is that if you have both radiuses all the way down and scale all the way up, you're hitting your wavers in the face with stuff. So I would personally recommend having one, at least, radius all the way up, and radius animation at taste. Speaking of which, radius animation, as you can see, kind of makes a little wave that goes through the middle of the tunnel. And radius 1 and 2, One goes one way, one goes the other, and I think they're at different offsets. Can't really tell, but I don't really mess with it much. So have fun. Length is how long the tunnel length is. Now, the higher the poly count, the smoother this fader goes. So when I load this thing in, I'll show you what I mean. But you see how it doesn't really get uh, like up here doesn't really do anything, but once we get down here, then it starts to kind of narrow itself in. You put it all the way down and you have this. So that's what at zero does. I haven't found a use for that, but hey, maybe one of y'all can find a cool use to have, just a tunnel ring around. Scroll speed in the middle is not moving at all. One way goes one way goes the other way. And little bonus factoid here, one thing to note, is that if you don't really like the way your tunnel works and you have multiple colors, flip it around. Because with the way rotation works is that there's one side of the poly that won't show up all that much. So your scroll speed will be reversed, but hey, have fun, experiment. Now, 2D objects. This can get a little funky. Come on now. Boom. All right, now I'll pull this out again for reference here. So let's come on now. There we go. All right, let's turn scale animation down. Just get everything zeroed out real quick so we can have a good look. See. Now, see, even cranking sides all the way up. See how length doesn't. No, it's even less. But anyway, just get a nice neutral thing going on here. Now, with 2D objects at a certain angle, they cease to exist. So crank this up a little bit. You see how we should be seeing all this, but all we're seeing is that pink in the middle. So with this, if you have an object that slowly rotates over time, you can create the illusion that it's changing color or scale. Now keep in mind, this tunnel isn't moving, but it still has the illusion of motion going along with it. Pretty sweet. And there you have it. That's about all I can really give you. Everything after that is just experimenting, seeing what sticks to the wall. A lot of trial and error, and, well, sitting in here for a while. You know how it goes. All right, guys, happy tunneling.